So for the first speaker, I want to introduce you guys to Hassan, one of my business partners. Really good kid, 21 years old, just in 21. He did 1.3 million in about 2 months with his store. So I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off with him. Hassan. Albert. Mic up.
Can I hold it?
Yeah, just put it right here.
Okay.
You can just put it in your back pocket.
Oh, there's my picture. So yeah, my name is Hassan Bazzi. I've been in the e-commerce game for 3 years now. I've done it all from AliExpress to print on demand. It's never really worked for me in the AliExpress stuff. The basic stuff that everybody was teaching, all those gurus were teaching, it never really worked for me. So instead of kind of like leaving it all and saying this isn't working, I got to try something else, whatever. I've been into retail since I was 15, so I knew that it was for me. I knew that I needed to be in this game. So I kept going. I kept looking for things that are going to be different, something that I can sell that's not going to be the same as everybody else is doing. So whenever somebody's teaching e-com, it's typically teaching everybody how to do the same thing. So hey, you want to get into e-com? Go to this website, get products, sell this, sell that. It's the same thing over and over again, right? So in 2018, I discovered personalization. That's what I'm going to get into more in the presentation. So since I was 15 years old, I've been dealing with Chinese suppliers. So I've been into retail arbitrage before e-com. So I was that kid in high school selling iPhone chargers to the kid in the corner. I looked like I was selling drugs or something. People were always looking at me wondering what the hell I was doing. But I remember when I discovered those 10-foot long noodle chargers. I don't know if you guys are familiar with those, like 10-foot long iPhone chargers. And people in school were always complaining about, man, my iPhone charger is so short. I can't charge my phone in class. It's so far from me, all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I need to figure out something that, I could probably sell something to them. I could solve that problem. So that's when I started to really think and use my head about how I can solve problems and create a solution for people and make money doing it, right? Obviously. So all I did was I went online and I saw a Google ad for Alibaba. And so I discovered Alibaba, and through that I discovered their other websites, AliExpress, I discovered DHgate, and then I looked for longer chargers and I found those. I got them for 10 cents. I sold them for $10 at school. I made my first $900 when I was 15. So that was pretty cool. I felt like I was on top of the world, but later I found out I wasn't actually on top of the world with $900. But anyway, so yeah, that's kind of where it started with retail. And then in 2016, I saw a Shopify ad. So I think everything that happened with my now career has come from an ad. So like at first, getting into retail arbitrage, it came from an ad. That's where I saw Alibaba. That's where I saw wholesale. And then same thing with Shopify. I saw an ad. It's like the basic Shopify ad: start your online store, your own online store, 14-day free trial. And so being the risk taker that I am and was, I quit my job literally right when I seen that ad. Not even kidding. I quit my job the same day. I was working at a restaurant, and so I was doing retail arbitrage alongside the jobs that I was working. By the time I was 17, 18, I was able to save up like 30 grand for myself. So that's why I did that, even though retail arbitrage was doing really well for me. So then in 2016, I saw the Shopify ad, and then I quit my job that day, and I jumped right into Shopify. But little did I realize that it's not the flick of the switch and you start making money, right? So this was June 2016. From June to September 2016, I lost like 6 grand on ads because I was just trying to sell what I wanted to sell and didn't even learn about Facebook ads and how it works. I didn't even put in the time to actually learn the algorithm and learn how the system actually works, right? So I lost, I went from 30,000 in savings to like, 24,000 in savings. So I was shitting my pants after that. So it was a bit overwhelming at that young of an age. But after that, I just realized that, I kept moving. And I think that a lot of people in this industry, they don't realize that it's as simple as, keeping it going. Keep moving, keep going. You'll figure it out. You'll solve that problem. Even though my mom was telling me like, hey, you know, you should probably rethink this. Like, you're losing money right now. You're young. You know, that parenting advice that you get. You're young, you know, you have so much ahead of you. You got to go to school, you know, get your degree, get a good job. And so I was so stubborn, and I'm so thankful for it till this day. I just kept to it. After that, I ended up buying somebody's store just because I thought it would be a great learning curve for me, and it was. Fast forward a year later, I did 6 figures on that store in the 1 year, but I only made like 10% profit, but it was still like a huge win for me. And then from there, it was just kind of up and down, you know, with the same stuff over and over again, right? Like AliExpress products, print on demand. I just felt like I was following people. I felt like I was following everybody in the e-com industry, doing what they're doing what they're telling me to do. And I knew that if I discovered at 15 years old that I could sell to these, you know, students in the hallways at a freaking $9.90 margin, you know, crazy margin, I can figure out how to, you know, succeed in e-com with my own strategies, something that, you know, I'm not necessarily following others on. Okay, so let me get into, so why am I here, right? So I want to talk about the market that has made me lots of money, for one. I want to talk about how to do manufacturing right and access to our manufacturers. This is my main, I think what I'm going to really emphasize on in this presentation. Most people in e-com are just taking the prices and agreements that manufacturers and suppliers give them from the get-go. Like, they don't even challenge it. They don't know how to challenge it. They don't know how to look at it, and whether it's they should be paying that price and they should be agreeing to that lead time. You know, I've been screwed over pretty bad with suppliers. Last year, you know, I'm going to get into that story. Last year, I had you know, 3 months of delays on orders. For people waited about 3 months for shipments, and this was up until April 2019 this year. So it was very recent. So I think I'm very credible with this subject because I've learned so much, and now I know exactly how to avoid those problems that, you know, I had. So, and then I also want to really talk about how, you know, I've been transitioning for the last year into the branding mentality. After seeing brands like, I guess I'll shout out Josh for his brand. After seeing brands like Snow and seeing brands like that, it's really motivating to stop thinking so small and start thinking a lot bigger. And, you know, I think everybody here is, you know, you're here for a reason, you're thinking bigger. So I want to talk about the branding mentality versus the dropshipping mentality. The majority of the industry is in the dropshipping mentality, and I see that as an opportunity. I see that as an opportunity because if so many people are in the dropshipping mentality, that gives us more room to get into that branding mentality. It gives us more room to build brands while they're sticking to the same stuff over and over again. So Albert briefly spoke yesterday about personalization. He's going to continue speaking about it today. But personalization is something that we're both in, and, you know, we're business partners, so we're both in that area together as well. But I've been doing personalization since April 2018, so I've been doing it for quite some time now. So I discovered personalization then. I was just at the time, you know, looking for different ways that I could get into e-com without following people, right? Following that basic strategy. So I started looking around. I honestly went to, you know, like, you know, Home Goods and those kind of stores, like Marshalls, those kind of stores. I just go there and I would like check things out. I want to see like what they're selling in stores, because they actually gave me a lot of ideas. And then I came across Etsy. I came across platforms like that, and I was like, wow, you know, there's so much different products in the world that I've never seen before. And so if they're being sold, then there's definitely room for me to tap into that. So I'm like, you know, what's going to be something that I can tap into that's, you know, so much different, and people would actually feel like, wow, I want that, you know, and they haven't seen it much, right? That's where personalization comes in. Personalization is something that is coming to the market very at scale now, and people are really starting to appreciate it in the market. So I was thinking, you know, something that people can customize would really mean something to them. You know, they can brag about it, they can hang it on their walls. I like home decor. I've been selling home decor for a long time. And, you know, when I thought about that, I'm like, wow, they can hang it on their walls. They can kind of like put their last name. They can, you know, people are very passionate about their family name, about certain like words, and right. So I thought about that and I was like, okay, so like let me see what I can find for like personalization products. So I literally went to these stores. I saw products that, you know, were customizable, that gave me ideas. I went on Etsy, and Etsy is where I had my, you know, big, like, got my, you know, my major ideas from. And Albert mentioned Etsy yesterday, and that's what I really want to talk to you guys about today. Etsy has a lot of great ideas. And so I found a product that I've never seen before, and it's metal. And I was like, wow, so this is art that's made out of metal. And I saw that there was only a few people doing it, and on that, even at scale. Like most people that were doing it was at low scale. And so, let me get to the next slide. So these are my stats from metal last year. So I had a lot of problems with suppliers, with payment processing. So these were different dates. But I just want to show the revenue stats as well as the profit stats, because I know a lot of people in this industry only show revenue stats. So I like to show the this is order metrics, by the way. I like to show these figures because, you know, it's really emphasizing on why I'm talking about personalization today as well. But just to show that I'm credible on this subject. So I saw that people were doing, only a few people were doing personalization, and that really triggered me. And so I jumped in and I found a supplier on Etsy, but he was actually able to scale, you know, to a figure that I thought was realistic. So I ended up doing more. This is when I first started. I ended up doing more than I expected. I thought I was going to do like 50 grand for the month or something like that. I ended up doing 315K in a couple months. So my first 2 weeks I did 100K, and he was so overwhelmed that he slowed down my production. And you know, orders were taking a lot longer to come out to ship. And I had a lot of problems with him. I didn't have contracts with him. I was doing manufacturing wrong. And I noticed that a lot of people are doing manufacturing wrong. So I was out of, I had to like stop the store until October because there was such a backlog of orders. There was so much going on. And this sounds pretty negative, right? But I have the solution now after all this time that I've spent building this network of metal art suppliers and building what I've built with metal art so that you guys can never have that problem, you know, if you do pursue, you know, selling this product, because I'm going to give you guys the manufacturer at the end of this presentation. So you guys are going to have full access to him, to our prices, which the prices that I have with him are unbeatable. You can't get that anywhere else. So we wanted to give you guys that value today, which, you know, I initially wasn't, but I really, when we talked about it, I thought it would be, you know, great because you guys all came out here, and we're so happy that you guys are here, and you know, we want you guys to crush it. So these are some examples. I know Albert showed you guys some examples yesterday, but these are some examples of some really, really cool designs that did really well. You can see here, this is like a sun. This is like Stranger Things. You know, I don't recommend copyright infringement, but these ones didn't have any problems. But just, you know, make sure to be careful with that. But this is, you know, to do with Stranger Things. That was a hot seller. This is like Lion King. This is like a luxury, just name sign. I can tell you right now that the figures that I've done have been with very simple stuff like this. You know, in the early stages of metal art, of my stores of metal art. Dad, I Love You 3000, if you guys seen Avengers, the Avengers Endgame, that's from that. And then, you know, another kind of sign. So here's another example, right? This is a $100 bill. This is extremely heavy though. I don't know if you guys want to pass that around. It's really heavy, just be careful. But you can see how cool that is and how unique it is, right? So yeah. But I also want to show you how, you know, it's not only metal that, you know, you can do personalization with. You're not just stuck to metal. You know, there's some other products that's a lot easier to, you know, fulfill. I think one of the major things with e-commerce to work that you need to pay attention to is how fulfillment is working for your business. Like if it's really difficult and just complicated, sometimes, you know, you can look for other areas to make it less complicated in your business. And sometimes it's products like these, right? So there's t-shirts, there's hats, there's cups. And then from my buddy Eric here, where's Eric? Oh, Eric, Shine On. I highly recommend working with Eric for Shine On for jewelry. But jewelry is something that I'm really getting into now. I want to say, and that's going to be with Eric, because people, when they get gifts and stuff, jewelry is is a big gift, right? Big gift item. This would be great for birthdays and stuff like that, right? So imagine you're getting your girlfriend a necklace that says her name, right? It's personalized. So when you put that out to the market and your copy is like, put your girlfriend's name on this necklace, she'll love it for her birthday, right? So it's personalized, right? It's cool. It's different. And then there's this necklace where they took an image and they uploaded it to the product. So it's kind of like engraved and etched onto the product. So, I would imagine that parents would love to wear a necklace of their kids. So I mentioned Etsy, right? Etsy is definitely a undervalued marketplace. Etsy's so cool. There's so many unique products. It's all by mom and pop type people. They have their garage shops, and they just get their ideas from their they'll be at home and they'll be making up ideas and putting it on their Etsy store. And I find it cool that I can get ideas from a network of just regular people that haven't done anything corporate level, haven't done anything at super, super high scale, but there's so many creative minds in this world. And I find that people that are just regular average people are more creative sometimes than, some corporate, high corporate people. So I found when I went on Etsy that there was a lot of creativity. And so just even getting suppliers, I want to say, you can contact anybody on there. Albert was talking about that yesterday. You can contact anybody on Etsy to utilize as a supplier. But one thing I can say is that you're not always going to get them at to handle high scale. So you're not always going to be able to use them as a high scale supplier. But it's a good starting point, especially when you're testing something. Because I had a lot of problems with suppliers where they don't want to fulfill a low amount of orders when I'm just testing something new, right? I'm not going to go to 1,000 orders a day tomorrow, right? It takes a little bit of time. So when I saw that that gap there, I was like, okay, so why don't I stop worrying about having those little costs at the front end when I'm testing a product, and just pay the higher cost to these lower, smaller suppliers, and just test the product first to validate it. Then once I actually prove that it's a winner, prove that I can scale it, then I'll get somebody that can do the high scale and that can give me that pricing that will increase my margins, right? So I highly recommend Etsy. So this is a bit of a story in Q4 for manufacturing. This is the subject that I'm going to get into now. So my Q4 2018, my supplier was a middleman. So he was a middleman to the middleman. It was crazy. Let's just put it that way. So I had 3 different suppliers in Q4. The first 2 abandoned me while I was getting cha-chings every 30 seconds. So I got abandoned at the worst time, and he couldn't handle the volume. So it's crazy, right? You think about it, you're like, wow, I'm selling so much and the supplier does not want my business. How that's pretty crazy, right? You just think to yourself, I would have never thought that I'd ever have that problem. But that's just to show that how much there is to learn in this industry, how much we're missing, education-wise, right? So I was like, okay, great. I know something new, but how am I going to solve this problem now? I need to fulfill these orders, and I don't want to stop my ads. It's so profitable. Everything's going so well. So I ended up getting a call from the middleman guy. He was connected to the supplier that I had. And he called me up and he said, hey man, I heard that you're having some supplier troubles. And it turns out he worked for Redline Steel. Redline Steel is a big metal art company that has been around for a while. And he worked for them, and he said that he left that company. He said, yeah man, I built that company. He started saying all that stuff, right? So I kind of got sketched out at first because he's like, I built that company. It's something that anybody would say when they want to do business with you after they left that company. So I just started talking to him like, okay, this is probably my only option right now. I'm literally looking at my phone, how many cha-chings I'm getting. And so I partnered with him, and he ended up giving me his prices and stuff. He's like, yeah, I have a network of metal art suppliers. I can just pass your orders to them. I can take care of it all, whatever. And so he gave me his prices, and His prices were not too much different, but they were still significantly higher for somebody that's doing high scale. So like on 7,000 units, a $4 or $5 difference is massive, right? Which at the time when I switched to him, I had like 7,000 units to fulfill. So he gave me his cost for the 18 by 18 metal art piece, which is like the size of this. He gave me his cost at $28.85. I could tell he really thought about the price he was going to give me, because he took like a week to give me that price. And my price before that was $22 with my other supplier. So it was a significant increase, but I also was not going to shut off the ad. So I'm like, you know what, it's still very profitable, so why don't I just pay him that $28. So I did that, and I realized a couple months later that his cost to the supplier was $14. He paid the supplier $14 for that 18 by 18. So he made a 200% margin on me, right? His profit was $14.85. So $300,000 later in cost of goods that I paid him, he made a little over $100,000. Now, this kind of makes me look like an idiot, right? It's like, wow, you just lost $100,000 because you use the middleman. At the end of the day, I still made over a 20% net margin, so I was still fortunately there with the profitability. But this is just to show that I'm not saying you're working with middlemans. I'm just saying this is just to show that you really have to consider the things that you're doing with manufacturing and supply. So manufacturing done right, obviously no middlemen. Don't ever work with a middleman. Sometimes it's appealing because they'll take care of the work for you, right? Like especially if you don't have Oberlo and all that stuff, right? Where it's just through a platform, you have to use CSVs, you have to manage it more, the financials and all that stuff. It's more to manage, right? But don't use a middleman because they're definitely screwing you over. And so this is an example here just of a situation. So let's say this t-shirt's $14, right, with a supplier, right? Most dropshippers, they just kind of look at the price they're given and they're like, okay, so I'll just sell it for like 3 times that or 2 times that, right? They don't actually consider like, man, I can get this product for so much cheaper. I can actually talk to the supplier and actually get a conversation going with him and see what I'm actually paying for. I came to learn that with manufacturing and supply that you actually have the right to ask them these questions. Like when you have leverage, of course. I don't want to say just ask them that right off the gate, but so I just realized after showing my scale and my ability to scale and the fact that they don't want me to leave them, after not the first suppliers that abandoned me, but the supplier after that didn't want me to leave him. I noticed that, wow, I can actually talk to them and see what their actual breakdown of costs are. I want to see what I'm paying for, because manufacturers could really burn you. They're not supposed to have margins like us. They're not supposed to have 20 to 40% margins, which is an average e-commerce net margin, right? So they are supposed to have, from what I understood before, they're supposed to have close to a 10 to 15% margin in some cases. So especially with a product like this, they're not supposed to have a high margin. So when I discovered that, I started to really think about that. And so here's what I did, okay? So I'm not saying right when you start working with a supplier, tell him, hey man, what's your breakdown of costs? I want to see what you're paying for. He's going to tell you to go to leave. He's not going to work with you, right? But it's not very important to have that discounted, that very, very low cost efficient price from the beginning of selling with a supplier, because you're testing a product, you're validating a product. But what happens when you're high scale and you're doing 10,000 units a month, 20,000 units a month? You want to start talking to them. You want to get your costs down, because you have the right to do that, especially when you don't actually know what you're paying for. So I just told him, hey man, I'm not trying to burn you. I just want to know, what am I paying for? What's the breakdown of costs? I started learning about metal. I started learning about the manufacturing that they do, how it works. My stepdad, fortunately, works in metal. So he works in a big metal company. I couldn't use him as a supplier, unfortunately, but he does like industrial work. So he taught me a lot about this and how, when he prospects suppliers, he gets a whole breakdown from them of what he's paying for. and he looks for a 10 to 15% net. They should have a 10 to 15% net. I'm not saying every supplier is supposed to have a 10 to 15% net, but this is what you figure out. You find out what they're supposed to have. You know, when you have that leverage, not when you're just some new guy with them. So at this point I have leverage, right? He doesn't want me to leave him. He wants me to work with him. This is like in, end of 2018, beginning of 2019, right? So I told him, hey man, like let's get a cost breakdown. Like I want to see what I'm paying for. And I explained to him what that sheet looks like. So I educated myself first before I went and talked to him. That's the main thing here, right? So I found that in the last year, that educating myself in areas that I didn't think I needed to care about actually does me very good, right? Because it can help my business internally, even though that stuff is not it's not things that I'm dealing with, right? But educating myself about how metal works and how I can break down these things, got me to doing this, and it lowered my prices significantly with him. So the pricing sheet, for example, for metal, right? He's got his costs, like the DXF creation, which is the design file creation, the steel cost per part, the labor cost, the labor punching after laser, the powder run equipment for powder, labor for powder coating, wash chemicals, box costs, packaging labor, building forklift, all this stuff that I don't care about, right? But I care about the numbers because I'm a numbers guy and I'm here to make money, right? So his cost for the 6x6, let's say, okay? Total no profit, $5.25, okay? Then we agreed on these prices. This gives him a supplier profit margin of 10 to 15%. So averaging off all these sizes that I sell, it gives him a profit margin of 10 to 15%. Now, I want him to make money, right? Everybody has to eat, right? But I don't want to get burned because I know how his industry works. I know how much he's supposed to make, right? So we agreed on that, and you can see, so when he was getting paid 14 bucks, because you can see here I'm paying higher, right, than the middleman did, because the supplier that the middleman worked with, I went directly to him after that when I cut off the middleman. So that's the supplier that wanted me to work with him. Therefore, I had leverage. Just sorry if I confused you there, but that's what happened with that. So the 18 by 18, it turns out he didn't have too much experience with laser, like art stuff, because he was industrial work. So he didn't actually know how to price his stuff at the beginning. So the middleman got away with like telling him, hey, yeah, I'll pay 14 bucks. I guess he didn't do his math correctly. So in this case, because I also have my stepdad to kind of help me there, and like I did my own research and whatever, I found that $21 was a realistic price for what he's doing, how much time this takes in the machine, the electricity, all that stuff. So we agreed on $21. So basically went from $28.85 to $21. You can think like at if I'm doing 10,000 units in a month or a couple of weeks, whatever it is, that's a significant difference in the total cost of goods, right? So that is manufacturing. So I'm really, really big on that now. I pay close attention to, who I work with, how I work with. And then the last thing I want to talk about with manufacturing before I move on to this is, so drop shipping versus, working directly with, somebody more not intimate, but personal, right? Drop shipping, you can't build a brand with drop shipping. Let's just be real. There's no way to build a brand with drop shipping unless you have some skin in their game. So I realized over time that if I want to build a brand, but I don't want to manufacture my stuff right now, but I want to have that product, I want to have that the product at their cost so that I can have leverage in the market, price my stuff lower than the competitors because they're all drop shipping. Then I need to, where's Albert? Albert was, this is something that Albert and I are implementing now. So where any manufacturers that we want to work with through like a drop shipping model, we want to have skin in their game while they have some skin in our game. Therefore, it's a win-win. So if they ever want to screw with me, then they're screwing their own company because they have skin in their game, So therefore, I have leverage, and then they also have some skin in my game, right? So I don't have to deal with the messes that I dealt with before. Now I create, now I completely eliminate that risk. That risk that I had before when I had a middleman, wasn't sending the orders on time, 3 months of people waiting for their orders to get to the customer. I really wanted to talk about this subject today because I don't think a lot of people talk about this in the e-com industry. And so I was really excited to bring this to your attention because it's really important and people overlook it. So anyway, moving on, I think you got the gist there. One sec. Well, it's a little dry. One of the things I really realized over the last year as well, aside from, my own stores, manufacturing, all that stuff, impact is really powerful to me now. It really makes me happy to feel like I'm helping others and I'm like empowering others, because, most of the times, you're in it for yourself. You're in it to make money. You want to build your business, build your life. You care about your life and what you're doing, but I never really had the consistent happiness like that. It's been 3 years now, and I realized that there's always been something off in 3 years. Like, I'd make money and all this stuff, but I'm like, wow, I'm not like really happy. I'm not actually doing anything aside from just making money, right? So I realized that, once I started thinking about, when people asked me questions and I started getting more attention as I had some success, and all that, I would get more attention from outside people and people in my city, people asking me for help. And at first I didn't care. I'm going to be honest. I didn't care to help anybody. I would give people the cold shoulder. I would leave people on red. I wouldn't answer people. I cared about myself and I was only in it for myself. But once I actually helped somebody, I actually realized what it did. It made me feel good, and I feel like it made me a better person. So this was this year, actually, a couple months ago. My buddy, he does Amazon FBA, and he's really, really good with Amazon. But he was just saying, man, I want to take the next step and get into, Shopify, e-commerce, outside of Amazon. And so he didn't really know what he was doing, but so he was doing like 1K, a little less than 1K on his product, and he wanted to know more about Facebook ads and marketing and whatnot. So I jumped in and I helped him get to a level that he's never reached, and we scaled this product pretty high. It was a really passionate short-term product, and yeah, I just realized to myself how much impact really impacts me. Impacting others really impacts me. And even speaking in front of you guys today and helping and sharing all this information with you guys, it really empowers me. And yeah. So last but not least, guys, before we get to the Q&A, I want to talk about the dropshipping mentality versus the branding mentality. In the last year, I've been really, really transitioning and thinking more about branding versus dropshipping, because I want to get out of that mentality of finding winners and cash cows every month. You're looking for that cash cow, how to make money, right? But I realized that that kind of phase is dying off. It's not gonna, you're not gonna see any of that in 5 years. So I want to go where the market is going, and that's building a brand with a message and a story, something that actually resonates with people and makes them want to buy a product, not just for the product, but for the story. And you're building a company, right? Because when you're drop shipping, you're not building an actual company, you're just selling. So when you look at this picture, that was me for the longest time. Just looking at my screen, picking a product, and I'm just like, this one has to be a winner. I'm always looking for that winner, right? And that's just a wrong mindset to have, especially when you're trying to build something sustainable. And most people in this game are in it for the short term. They're not in it for the long term. But I really want to emphasize how much it's so important now to build a brand that's actually going to be long term, and you're actually going to be able to sell off for a multiple, where it's actually worth something. Lifetime value, like Eric was talking about. Repeat customers. You don't get repeat customers with those basic AliExpress gadgets that you sell one time and then you never see those customers again. I want to be able to remember my customers. I want to be able to speak to my customers and remember that name. It's hard to remember a name of tons of customers, but you get what I mean, right? I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to feel like I built something. I see that with brands like, Snow. I see that with people that are building these big companies. They're so passionate about it, and they're actually building something that's going to be more valuable in the long run than something in the short run, right? Why are you gonna look at the short-term profits when you can focus on the long-term profits, right? And that's kind of when I stopped thinking about, being greedy about equity, partnering with Albert now, like thinking strategically about my endeavors and my projects. So this is the same as this. Can you agree? It's the same thing. It's literally the same thing. When you're at the casino and you're behind your screen trying to find a winner every single day, it's the same thing. You're gambling. You're trying to gamble your way to making a quick buck. And that's exactly what people do at the casino. So being in e-commerce, we want to build brands. We want to build companies. We don't want to build cash cows and have to every single day look for that new product that we can scale, that we can sell, that we can bring to the market. I don't want to gamble, and I think that you guys don't want to gamble your way into success. So that's why I think the focus from now on and what's going to win for anybody in e-commerce is branding, building a brand, building something that's actually going to last. Okay, so last but not least, before the Q&A, I just want to give you guys the metal supplier. So this is kind of like my baby in a way. Not him, but the access. Because it took me 4 suppliers, $230,000 on hold, 3 months of backlogged orders, and tons of contract terminations to finally get somebody that can handle the volume and can handle the work. Has a whole facility. He just moved into a new building, actually, thousands of more square feet. He has now 3 laser machines, which are all $600,000, by the way. They cost $600K each. So he's expanding. And the more I bring to him, the more he's going to expand. So note that down, please. Everybody got it noted?
Is he in Florida?
He's actually in Minnesota. Yeah. All right, so let's do a Q&A.
How long does it take Zach to ship it out? And like how many days?
2 to 7 days. Yeah.
And is shipping expensive because it's metal and heavy?
It's not. You know why? Because shipping costs in the USA, because it's shipped from the USA. Well, if it's U.S. customers in this case, they don't ship by weight. They ship by dimensions. So their prices aren't based on weight. They're based on dimensions. They do factor in weight, but not like China. Like China, if you ship 10 pieces of metal, you're paying like $100. But here, I've never paid more than $12 or $15, but my average is like $10.
Is that $12 included in those prices you were showing before that you're getting from the supplier, or is that additional?
No, the $12 is just the shipping cost. So like my average cost on like, let's say I'm shipping 5 of these in one box, I'll probably pay like $11 to ship 2-day shipping in the States to a US customer. But it costs more to ship, internationally for sure.
On top of
The product cost, right? The product cost, let's say, is $21, right? The shipping cost is separate, right? So $21 plus that shipping cost. So the shipping cost would be, either his shipping accounts under you or your own shipping accounts. ShipStation, if you guys ever heard of it, that's what we use with him. Yeah, ShipStation's awesome. ShipStation, yeah, ShipStation's awesome.
Yeah, I use ShipStation.
Yeah, it's awesome. Connects to order metrics too, by the way. So my shipping costs all get calculated in order metrics.
What sort of branding techniques or strategies are you currently implementing or looking to implement in the future?
So I really want to focus now. So I like art and stuff for making money. Like I'm not gonna lie. I still obviously find my winners and stuff. I still do that, but I just don't want that to be the focus. So I like that for that. You can also build a brand around this. You can build a brand around anything, right? But I myself, I've just gotten so attracted to that business where there's that one product with those repeat, purchases. They need to buy more. They need access to pieces of the product. Like teeth whitening with the gels, right? Or he calls them the wands, right? That they have to come back for that. The one-time purchase is the device, right? But they have to come back for the gels. And I like that business more because I don't want to keep chasing that next, that next winning product, right? Every business has to chase their next winning product, right? Like I can imagine a lot of, clothing companies and whatever, they're chasing their next like winning t-shirt, their next, winning hoodie or whatever it is, something that the audience is gonna they're gonna blow up with their audience, right? And it's not gonna be that regular day-to-day seller. So I want to focus on a brand that I can build that's going to keep me so busy and focused for a really long time that I can scale so much with such a broad market. And I don't have to, think about so many other products, right? I can expand as the business grows into other products of that line. So I like that business. I want to look for something now that is just one product that I can grow a brand around that. And it has an actual purpose where I can, and it's also so broad that I can scale it to, a high percentage of the world, right? So that's where my head's at.
How do you test the ads? Do you just run cold interest with CBO or?
So yeah, it's all CBOs for me. I've been doing CBOs since Q4 because one of the things about me when I see something is changing, and even if it's like September, from like December to like September, that's it's almost a year, right? But I prepared myself from that time, so I stuck to CBOs, and I stopped doing the regular campaigns. But I always do PPE, just like Albert was saying yesterday as well. I always do PPE because engagement is really important. Like when I'm scrolling through Facebook myself or Instagram, and I see something with like 15,000 likes and 5,000 shares and or 25,000 shares, whatever it is, I stop, I look at that, I'm like, wow, like I want to see what that is, right? So people think like, oh, I just want to do conversion ads because I just want to sell, I just want to sell the product. But when you have a PPE ad, it builds that, kind of like a, what's the word? So it builds that social proof, right? And so you're gonna stop and look at that ad. So I get a higher click-through rate when I run a PPE campaign. And so when I'm testing a new product, I then start a CBO. And Albert was talking about this yesterday. I don't want to seem like I'm saying the same thing. But so we were doing the CBO, and then I put like 3 to 5 ad sets in there, and then it's all one interest. I want to test different interests, but one of the things that I want to mention about that is I don't put like such different levels of potential reach in each ad set. So I don't put like 5 different ad sets, and like one of them is 100 million and the other one's 3 million. It's not going to deliver properly. You're not going to be able to actually test that properly. Facebook won't be able to run that. So you'll notice a difference in spend, and it's actually the whole thing about CBO is so that Facebook can push more spend towards what's working better, right? So if 2 ad sets are working better than the other 3 ad sets, they're going to push more spend towards there, right? But if you're doing it to where like there's such a difference in potential reach in the ad sets, then it defeats the purpose of CBO. They're not going to, it's not going to deliver, it's not going to run properly, right? So I always like keep my interests to a similar potential reach as the ones I'm testing in the campaign. So if I'm testing like a 10 million audience, I want the other ad sets to also have like near that potential reach of 10 million. But so when you're testing something from the beginning, we always recommend doing like 1 to 3 million so that you can get those purchases fast. Because when it's a broader audience, it's harder to get those purchases because it's so large. So start with that, and then when you're actually starting to scale, then you want to go to like the much larger audiences. And then the budget-wise is actually a really important topic for that. I always start with a high budget, man, because like when I know something's gonna perform, like I know it's gonna sell. I don't know it's gonna scale. I don't know if it's gonna be like a big scale, but I know it's gonna sell. I go for at least $200 to $500 to put that budget from the start, because I want to get that data fast. It's really hard to get those minimum 50 conversions in the 7 days when you're spending like $20 a day, and CPA costs on Facebook are rising, right? So it's been a lot easier for me to get those minimum 50 conversions with a higher budget from the get-go. With Facebook before, higher budgets weren't good, right? You have to do lower budgets because you can't throw so much money at Facebook from the beginning. But when you're doing a higher budget now, CBO is a lot smarter. They made it a lot, Facebook's a lot smarter today. So you can throw some money at it more than before and, build that optimization.
Do you do a 7-day clicks?
I do 1-day click or view. 1-day click or view. I like to leave that or view there as well, because I want them to base it off the clicks and views, not just the clicks. Because then there's more data there. Clicks and views is a lot more data than just clicks, right? So I want them to go based on more data, not just
And how do you determine what's a winner and a loser? So if you're testing, like, what's it?
That's a good question, man. I always look at the click-through rate, the link click-through rate. You know, I don't really care about the click-through rate all, you know, the one with the all, brackets all. I look at the link click-through rate, so I focus on that because I want to see how many people are actually clicking on the link that's, you know, actually wanting to go to the ad. I don't base it off engagement anymore, but definitely engagement's just used for the algorithm. I use that for that, you know. You definitely look at engagement, look at comments, comments and shares for engagement. Look at that to see, you know, how people are responding to your campaign. So if I see people are commenting and saying like, I want this and like, this is cool and like stuff like that, then that's a good sign, right? But ultimately I look at, you know, I more so look at the data. I look at the link click-through rate. I look at the cost per click for sure. And the cost per website content view. For sure, because those are the most important metrics to look at when you're initially testing something and validating it.
Somebody order blueberries? We'll take it.
We'll take it. So I hope that helps. Yeah.
What is the delivery? Food delivery. Sorry, real quick. Food delivery. Anybody? No.
Just bring it in. Hungry. I'll copy it, okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Oh,
Are you happier now?
am I happy now? Yeah, I mean, I am pretty happy now. Yeah. So I can definitely say that. Yeah, I'm definitely happy now. Especially I just moved to Miami on Monday this week. So new chapter, new life, new beginnings. You know, so I'm definitely excited for the next thing. I would just say that, yeah, happiness is definitely something that people overlook in this industry. It's being an entrepreneur gets depressing. You know, it's weird, right? Because you think it's like the amazing life, whatever, right? I think that you have to learn how to develop happiness out of it, and that's kind of what I've been doing the last year. I've been really fascinated by, you know, understanding how, you know, you manage everything, have that balance to actually live a happy life, and what's going to actually keep me fulfilled. I want to do things that are going to keep me as fulfilled as possible, so that it's never about the money. It's never about this and about, you know, about what people think of me. That's for one, man. A lot of people care about what others think in this industry, man. I hate that. Like, I don't care what people think. You know, like I definitely want to look good in front of people. You know, like I want to have a good name for myself and all that, but I don't care to show somebody my stats, like, hey man, look what I did today, you know, like, and just rub it in their face. Like, I'm not like that, you know. I'm very humble. You know, fortunately I was raised by great parents, and yeah, so.
Bro, so you guys are talking about customization, right? So when you run an ad, let's say this product right here, or any product you're doing, like what you promote, what you are testing, like that product in specific, or let's say like the bill that you are passing like around.
That's a good question, man. We've done a lot of testing, and like this is a very valuable thing that we discovered through, like, you know, 6 figures, and I spent $500,000 on ads for this particular market so far. I would say that, you know, those basic hanging on the wall images and videos, those don't really work with this product. So I'll tell you right now, and this is a very valuable thing that I'm telling you. You wanna run you know, ads that show someone holding it, so they can actually show that it's metal.
So just a photo, something like that?
Honestly, photo ads work really well. We've been doing photo ads. I recommend getting into video though, because video is just becoming the norm. And then what I like about video is that I can gather the video viewer data and retarget those viewers. I've done like $100,000 in just retargeting video viewers out of that 1.5 million. Sorry, like not the full the million. So yeah, that's what I like about video. Video is really valuable, but it depends on what you're selling, right? I find that video is used more for when you have to educate somebody on a product, right? It's, you know, it's kind of like I look at video kind of like a sales funnel. It's like a sales funnel because you're kind of like running people through a series of steps to kind of educate them to then buy that product. But I find with a product like this, you don't really have to educate them on why they're buying it. They're buying it because they want to put their name on it, and they want to put it on their wall, you know, to embrace their name, and, you know, yeah. So.
With all your retargeting, do you just retarget on Facebook or do you use other platforms?
Honestly, till this day, I've done strictly Facebook and Instagram. I am really going to be jumping into YouTube now, Google. I'm really wanting for, also just with Albert as well, for us to focus on, being on every platform. So you can retarget people, when you have data from Google, you can retarget them on Facebook, right? So like, there's tons of amazing strategies in advertising that I have not yet utilized. But for anything that I've done with retargeting, I've done it through Facebook, catalog retargeting. And then I'm also really big on just retargeting the product itself to the custom audiences of people that viewed the product, added to cart, initiated checkout, I exclude the purchasers. So if I have people that, if I want to retarget people the same product, I don't want to do a catalog, right? I want to get that custom audience of the view content. So the view content, I recommend doing it for the last 3 days, because when you do it for a longer time frame, so if I retarget people from the last 30 days, I find that Facebook works better on more recent data, and 3 days is a lot more recent than 30 days, right? And so if you start retargeting them a couple days after running that product, it's still new, right? So you can retarget those last 3 days, and then that 3 days will keep refreshing, right? So you're gonna get everybody, but you're just doing it on a 3-day window. So that's the power of that. So I'll create my custom audiences of people who viewed the content, added to cart, initiated checkout, viewed their cart with that product, not viewed content of the entire website, of that specific product page, right? I take the product ID from Shopify, I put it in the content IDs on the custom audience section on Facebook, right?
When you do the retargeting, like the view content, for example, like the last 3 days, right? Let's say you create the lookalike today.
Right.
It's going to be learning every day, or you have to create like 3 days all the time? Let's say
It updates itself. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of the custom audiences and lookalikes. It's constantly updating. It's constantly learning. So it's really powerful. You don't have to constantly change things. So I create my custom audiences and lookalikes right away, because they update themselves. They constantly refresh, right?
So you create like, let's say
Door.
like the ad.
Sorry?
Say that you create the ad tomorrow for, the people who view your content like the last 3 days. And you create like another ad, like, let's say like next day for the new people, or you just leave one?
Oh, no, it's the same ad. It's constantly refreshing.
So it's same.
Right, yeah. Like I was running the same retargeting ads for like 2 months. Yeah. I was running the same ads for like 2 months on retargeting. I remember I had like a 8 ROAS, so 8 return on ad spend on the retargeting. Retargeting is where you get it's so easy to get a high ROAS, put it that way. If you have a product that's scaling, you have so much data.
What frequency do you have for like per day? Like how many times they see per day?
Yeah, frequency, I always like to stay close to 1, of course, right?
Per day?
Yeah, I mean, I always like to stay close to 1, because Facebook will penalize you if your frequency is really high. If people seeing your ads 3 times, the frequency of 3, people will start reporting it. They'll get annoyed, right? We all get annoyed of stuff, right? So you don't want your frequency to be high. That's actually not going to benefit you. It's actually going to penalize you, raise your costs. I've had my costs, were raised because of that. So I like to exclude purchasers in my ads so that the frequency stays close to 1. I did that in Q4, and my frequency was like 1.4 consistently around there.
Per day, you said, not like over.
Oh no, lifetime it was 1.4. Yeah. Retargeting, the frequency, leave that open. You want them to see that as much as possible, right?
Sorry, yeah. Okay.
Is that for retargeting?
Yeah,
You were asking?
retargeting.
Okay, that's for just cold campaigns in general, yeah.
So with your would you hit them like 3-4 times a day with your retargeting?
The frequency is calculated on its own, right? It does its thing, like Facebook does that, right? I don't actually set a frequency, right? I leave it open, right? So that way Facebook does show them many times, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your infrastructure like?
Oh. You guys just got all my secrets. No, I'm just kidding. That's just my mail. Don't take my credit cards.
What's your infrastructure like when you scale in terms of employees? How do you
What's my what? Sorry, infrastructure?
infrastructure employees when you scale to a few
You know what? I've had a rare case. I've done a lot of things by myself, even accounting and all that stuff. Order metrics allows me to kind of like do the accounting by myself. Customer service, I had people from the Philippines, so that's great. You know, $1, $2 an hour. You know, I'm not doing anything wrong, right? That's their normal rate. So I don't feel bad when I do that, even though at first I did. But so other than that, yeah, because I didn't actually expand or do anything. I didn't hire any teams for like social media, for like affiliate marketing, influencer marketing, things like that, right? It wasn't, so fortunately my costs for employees in that 1.5 million on metal was about $1,000. Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
How do you do your pricing? Like, how do you figure out the market?
Yeah, so that took some time to kind of like just test prices. So I guess it'll make it a lot easier for you guys because I've tested it so much. I find that you can't price the 18 by 18 so high, but it's still high ticket. And so it allows you to scale with Facebook pretty easily because the cost per acquisition being higher doesn't actually affect, because you can still get a nice margin on home decor. You know, canvas art, you can get a high cost per purchase on Facebook and still make money, still make a lot of money. Same thing with this, it's art, right? So art is valued a lot higher, especially with personalization. You know, you can price that a lot higher because people look at it in a more valuable way. So they're paying more because they know there's more work involved. Like, you know, the back end of this, I automated it. I got it all set up, so that's gonna make it easy for you guys. But it's difficult, you know, like you gotta create design files. You gotta send the supplier the CSV files in a specific way. There's tons of things that people don't really notice with that, yeah.
When you're making your audiences, do you just leave it like wide open and just see who's interested, or what sort of audiences do you
Wide open as in a really broad audience, or wide open
really
as in
broad and just
specific target, or just like,
what
okay.
sort of, targeting do you hit like
So for something like this, I want to target like gifts. I want to target home decor interests. I want to target home. I want to target art. You know, I want to target Etsy.
So you leave it pretty wide.
Yeah, I'm basically giving you guys all the interests. I'm like, I want to target all the home decor stores, those big home decor stores. I want to target those guys because I know, you know, Margaret from Colorado is at that store and she's shopping for her home stuff with, you know, so I know that that's the audience that is going to be more relevant to what I'm selling. Any other questions? Feel free, man. Yeah.
So what kind of system do you use to communicate the orders with the supplier?
Yeah, so the system, that, I should definitely talk about that. So the system is through data export. So I set up the Excel sheet in a specific way, and I can follow up about this afterwards. It's fairly simple. I just set it up like the columns in the Excel sheet, they have to be set up in a specific way. The custom values for the products that come from the order, they go onto the Excel sheet and they're like custom value 1, custom value 2, and like columns, right? And so what happens with our supplier is that he has automation in place. And this is the beautiful thing about his operation as well. Because my lead time is always 2 to 4 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks for a customer to get their order. So you're basically drop shipping from China in that case, right? It's the same deal, same stress, same everything. In this case, because he has all this automation in place, I was able to get 2 to 7 days with him. So because I got 2 to 7 days with him, because of that, because of the way he has automation in place, the CSV goes into the machine automatically because he has a software that runs the Excel sheet into the machine. So it starts cutting the orders automatically. So he'll literally take the Excel sheet, put it in the machine, and it'll start cutting. I think Eric would probably know a lot about that because he probably does some stuff like that on China.
I was just going to ask you some stuff about your pages, but we can talk later about it.
Okay. Yeah. So hold on. I wanted to also mention, that Infinite Options, the app, or Product Options by Bold, if you guys write those down, he mentioned them yesterday, the apps. That's what we use to put custom options on our page, on our product pages, right? Before the add to cart button. they can't order unless they put those custom options in. You want to have that because you don't want people ordering without custom options, right? So obviously that's the purpose.
What are those apps called again, sorry?
Infinite options. I recommend Infinite Options because it's like $5 and it's never have any problems with it. Product Options by Bold, it gives you a little bit more options than Infinite Options. Even though it's called Infinite Options, it should have all the options, but there's Product Options by Bold as well, so yeah. You asked something, sorry. Oh no, it was you, sorry.
With like already customer lists and stuff like that, what do you do to like hit them again to like come back and buy more stuff?
Yeah, email marketing is really big with me. I've been on Klaviyo for a long time. Ever since I transitioned to Klaviyo from MailChimp, I've seen a significant increase in my education as a whole with email marketing. Like it's e-com focused, right, Klaviyo? That's what I love about Klaviyo, it's e-com focused. And the automatic flows have generated so much revenue for me. The ones that automatically go out, like abandoned cart, welcome series, browse abandonment, just creating your own flows too. Like if you want to have like a special offer, go to them after they order or something like that.
Do you like have creatives and stuff?
Yeah, of course. Like, I don't make my creatives different than like other products, like since this product's a lot different than other products, it just depends on the niche and the design and whatever, who I'm marketing it to. If I'm marketing it to like moms, which is typically...
What are you using for the like the pop-up, the pop-up thing, putting like the email or something?
Oh yeah, I use Just Uno.
Just
Uno? Yeah, Just Uno is probably the best one. I don't use Wheelio and all that crap.
What about what do you think about Opt-in Monster?
Opt-in Monster? I've seen Opt-in Monster. It was kind of, the pricing was a bit weird, right?
It's expensive.
Their pricing was a bit weird. Yeah, it was really expensive for an email pop-up. Oh, you are? Yeah, Just Uno is cool because it has a lot of integrations too. It integrates with Klaviyo, it integrates with a lot of things. So Klaviyo actually brought me 20% of my revenue. So email marketing can bring you 20% or more of your revenue. Easy. I had a high repeat rate of customers. I hit them with campaigns. I'd get $2-3 grand off of email campaigns, consistently. Abandoned cart flows, very well made. I have like 4 emails for abandoned cart flows. My last email in my abandoned cart flow is, hey, can I help you? How can I, it was something like, hey, first name, and then can I help? And then when somebody sees that, like, can I help? Oh, they're like, it's kind of intriguing at the end, right? They want to see like what you're about to say. In the email, we just say, hey, I noticed that, you were looking through the website, but is there something that I can help you with? You're not trying to sell them there. You're just trying to see if you can help them. I noticed that I got a lot of sales from that email because it was like, it really warmed up to people, I found. And even people responded to that email and told me like, I appreciate that email. You're asking me if I need help. Like, wow, okay. So yeah. Albert, what's the time? Sorry? We're ready? Okay, good. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man. Huh? Good stuff. Thanks, man.